Alright, let me adjust my microphone. Here we are. Now, I figured this would be the best way to end the fish saga on kind of a cathartic note, because instead of just making some long, drawn-out back and forth that this person is not going to pay attention to because they have the mental capacity of a gnat and half the attention span of one, I figured I'm just going to show a bunch of screen caps, rebuttal the screen caps, or read comments I've made out loud that I've screen capped, because I want people to have a ironclad case against this little shit. If he ever tries to pull this nonsense again, consider this like a study guide for anyone that might deal with this dipshit in the future, because I want there to be some kind of concise record. Now, Cass's video, I would highly recommend you watch that first, to get kind of like a sample platter of some of the fucking insanity this little dipshit brings to the table. However, without further ado, let's get into this bullshit, and I'm gonna start with some of the things this dipshit has said against me, and I'm gonna just start deconstructing those as we go. So let's get started. A message to Gage, Redacted, and other bullies. It's hard to understand why every time I ask you a question, you run away and start acting hysterical. First off, you don't ask questions. You make judgment calls based upon a person's life, and try to do horrendous shit to interrupt their life by being a constant pain in the ass by trying to fuck with people any way you can, because you're the kind of rabid SJW fuckhead who goes out of his way to try to take a shotgun to people's lives whenever they so much as disagree with your opinion slightly. Every time someone gets close to understanding who you really are as a human being, you either lash out in a wave of hate speech and oppressive words, or go on the internet and try to destroy said individual through slander and misinformation-based propaganda. No. The fact is, you genuinely don't understand people, and you don't really want to understand them, because whenever someone tries to level with you about their personal experiences, you do everything you can to downplay the severity of their anguish, I guess you could say. And then you want to be the person that talks the most shit, but shows the least amount of evidence, because you never have any. Your whole idea of evidence is that someone asks you a fucking question, and then you make a declarative statement with nothing to prove anything that you said during that statement. But you say making the statement proves you true. It does not. Evidence is determined by a divisibility of a screen cap, a video, or some sort of audio. And I mean like a full audio clip. I don't mean like a soundbite you cut out to make someone sound like a dick. I mean actually something that is able to build credibility around the shit you say, instead of just you blatantly bullshitting other people and then saying that you bullshitting them is true. You go into defense. Let's see here. Okay, I had jumped the line. Sorry. It seems as if you built a prison for yourself. No, it's just that people don't feel the need to have some fucking creepy asshole try to infest their life, to harass them and pester them like an asshole, because they realize that you're not worth their fucking time. You go into defense mode every time I ask a question, make a statement, or address an issue. No, people get defensive when you start trying to burrow yourself into their personal lives to harass their family members, fuck with their friends, or possibly endanger people in their lives that are special to them in some way. And yet at the same time, you babble and cry and bitch whenever someone so much as looks at you and says you need to stop making the world have to deal with the brunt of your issues. You need to learn to let go of the past and be at peace with people. Why don't you greasy sack of shit? You're the one that wrote 9 ass-hurt libelistic manifestos about me because I simply said that your views on pedophilia, rape, incest, and bestiality were fucked up. And then you go out of your way to cry and bitch when I say the fact that your views are utterly fucked. Learn how to love others, and others will love you back. You don't love anything or anyone because you view everyone as a fleshlight. That's not love. That's just you being a horny fucking gorilla who wants to fuck everything that moves because you don't possess the capacity to love. And here's the thing. People are not obligated to love your retarded ass because you decide to develop some creepy Lustburger obsession with them. People don't have to love you just because you refuse to release them and let them live a life without being constantly up their ass like some rape-enablist suppository. Plus, your life will be so much more peaceful. People's lives are peaceful more often than not just by living a life. It's not anyone else's fault that your idea of peace is a life where everyone just has a la-di-da attitude to every fucked up thing you do to them. Seriously, kill yourself, you greasy piece of shit. Here's one of the things where you accused me of domestic violence against Kate right there towards the bottom right corner of the fucking page. Let me read it for you. You are, yet he can't answer a simple question about immigrant rights or hold the debate intelligently. He's referring to Damien, despite the fact that Damien didn't talk to him about immigrant rights because he thinks Damien and I are the same person because he's colossally retarded. Anthony is even worse, where he loses control of his mental faculties and starts repeating you first like a broken record. People repeat you first because it's essentially the same shit you do to them, where someone asks you for proof and you just say, well, I just showed you because I just said something. I didn't prove what I said, I just said it, so believe me. I'm sorry, but in the real world, it doesn't work like that. It's not your fault that you're retarded, I understand that. It's not your fault you're an idiot. But it is your fault that at no point in time do you try to reevaluate your method of asking questions when everything you do involves running people around in a circle like an asshole to waste their time. Which means nothing and has nothing to do with anything. Which is literally everything you've said in that book. I advise people to ignore these concerns, but when they start getting into your personal life, take legal action against them like I did. You didn't take legal action. You basically just made a fucking bunch of veiled threats at me, saying you were going to try to make my life hell or fuck my life up because I refused to just let you be a shitbag to me. I wish I had that fucking clip where you straight up say that you want to make my life hell and that I'm never going to have peace. But at the same time, I'd rather not have it because I know it would just be a reason for you to cry and bitch about everything. Luckily, my country has strict anti-bullying laws, which led to an investigation on Gage Blank and his cult. No, it's not an investigation. It's literally just you pretending to be a police officer with some made-up authority that you don't actually possess, trying to threaten me over bullshit because you think that if you made some fake-ass threat to get me incarcerated, that I would just stop criticizing your shitbag behavior. And maybe, just maybe, if I just ignored you, it wouldn't have made a difference anyway, because there was a 7-month period where I didn't say a fucking word about you or to you, or about anyone, for that matter. I just ignored your ass for nearly a year, and you made 17 retarded fucking podcasts crying and bitching because I refused to pay you fucking attention. So even ignoring you didn't help, because of me maintaining an online presence was all it took for you to maintain this bullshit. That is how they found out about his abuse of Kate and harassment of multiple parties. Translation. You heard a fucking allegation from a fat dog rapist who's openly proven himself to be a compulsive liar back when he was still alive. But the fact that you believed it automatically totally doesn't take a serious fucking shotgun to your credibility. Because it shows that you're so fucking stupid, you will believe what anyone says, so long as the person that's saying it is someone that also has a problem with the person who's royally hurt your ass. Right. You're totally truthful when you publish an accusation like this in a piece of media that people can buy and access publicly, and then at the same time you have nothing to show for evidence except for this random dog rapist told me. I would love to take you to court for defamation and see just how desperate you are to try to wiggle your way out of it by arguing that you're too retarded to know what you wrote. Alright, let's read this fucking horse shit. Shanae is a visionary. Can you stop sucking your own dick? I'm not even a half paragraph in and you're blowing yourself. Fucking get a grip. Who has studied life and its people with an open mind. No, you literally believe a set of predisposed ideas that someone else made up and decided to exaggerate the fuck out of them just so you could be right, because your whole life is like living in a fucking cartoon. This book shares the realities of life, as well as tells a story of a transgender MTF who is living in a world of darkness because of right wing, like doesn't say right wing what. So for all everyone knows, it's the right wing of a duck or something. Right wing. Rand. Excellent job, dipshit. Her struggles within her own soul. You struggle with things because you're an asshole who does awful fucking shit to people, and then bitches and fucking cries about your goddamn problems, and tries to make everyone else deal with the dumb bullshit that you try to pull with everyone. You struggle because you know that deep down you can't deny that no one agrees with you, and I think it frustrates you to no end. Stetson Harwick is an 18-year-old. You're not 18, you're like 35. More importantly, you claim age doesn't exist, so why the fuck are you using it in this piece of shit book to refer to someone who you claim also doesn't exist? Make up your fucking mind. Does this person exist? Are they not you? Or are they you by a name you no longer go by? Or does this person not exist and you're literally writing a fiction? Which is it? You can't have it all of the above. It needs to be one or the fucking other. Who cares about humanity and rights for the LGBT plus rights? No, you don't. You care about pedophile rights. You consider gay rights as a stepping stone to pedophile rights, which I consider as an insult to the gay community. Fuck you. She has family in New Jersey and Georgia, is running for president, and is a writer and director. The only thing you've written is your own fucking death warrant. And the only thing that you're directing is my foot to your ass. Seriously. That's all you've ever managed to direct and write. You're directing my foot to your ass, and you're writing a fucking paper that can more or less be used as a reason to have you fucking committed to a psych ward. Here's a cover from another one of the shitty-ass books. Keep in mind, this is a real cover that I snapped from Amazon's front. Because Amazon allows you to take photographs and examine the cover and the backing of a book to determine whether or not you actually want to read it. I would advise nobody to read this unless they want to waste $30 for what is 57 pages of poor me, this guy I don't like is a Nazi because he calls me retarded. Which is essentially the synopsis of every goddamn book, only with accusations and bullshit peppered in there to try to maintain some level of intrigue. Alright, here we go. Einstein is a revolutionary. No, you're just an ass. Activist for the rights of the LGBT plus community. Here's the thing, though. You're not a gay rights activist. You're not a trans rights activist. You're not a lesbian rights activist. You're not an activist of any real kind. You're just an asshole that wants to wear the skin of an activist because you think that if you pretend to care about these issues or pretend to care about those affected by them, that it means that the SJW rabid retard sewing circle will embrace you as one of their own, and they would just mindlessly defend you regardless of every horrific bullshit thing you do to people. Because that's the only reason you want to have any association with these people. It's not that you identify with their struggles or wish to try to build common ground with these people for better understanding and better, I guess you could say, cooperation with other people. It's because you view these people as a shield you can just throw yourself behind so that no one can say anything mean about you, or you'll have people that don't know them jumping down their throat, which is what you've wanted since day fucking one. She is on the front lines of the political war front, directly fighting with the enemy, the conservative rights to gain and keep your freedom intact. Intact spelled with an E for whatever reason, you dumb motherfucker. Here's the thing, you're not trying to keep crazy religious fundies from killing gay people and trans people. You're just trying to keep your own ass satisfied with the concept of always being a fucking victim. You victimize yourself because it's the only way to maintain some level of attention on yourself is just to keep being a harassing douche until someone beats you up. And then you'll just Jussie Smollett the fuck out of it and try to milk it for all it's fucking worth. That's what asses like you normally do. On her spare time. Excellent grammar, dumbass. Keep in mind, you're trying to sell this shit. She's a screenwriter, enjoys writing, traveling, and hanging out. I wish you'd hang out from a fucking ceiling fan. And no, it's not because of your trans status or your race or whatever dumb bullshit. It's because you're just a genuinely awful person. Read about the horrible effects of being a victim of a closed-minded conservative racist cult. Translation: people that don't agree with me specifically are racist, because I'm a fucking idiot that thinks I speak for everyone in the world that's a different ethnicity than some of the people that talk about me, despite the fact that the people that criticize me happen to have people who are Latin American, Asian, Indian, black, white, UK, United States, Africa. Remember, all these people from all over the world, from many different cultural and racial and religious backgrounds, all criticize me, but remember, racist, cause I'm totally not just a retard. The mind can handle many things, but not the mentality of the conservative right is mind-boggling within itself. You are so goddamn stupid. This book is perfect for those with an open mind and respect for others who have suffered at the hands of conservative anarchy. First off, conservatism and anarchy do not work because those are two opposite ends of the political spectrum. And your idea of suffering is that you say something asinine, people tell you it's asinine, and then you try to victimize yourself over it for years because you're a fucking asshole. Get fucked. This is from the number Wayne code after he changed the fucking cover for the 12th time. Look at that ugly fucking face. Is he going on his way to a concentration camp? It looks like he's inside of a city bus. Anthony is a researcher. No, you're not. You're just an ass that speaks pseudo-intellectually about shit even you don't understand. They have traveled the world. Yeah, you've traveled the world so much that you can't even formulate a sentence that is grammatically correct. And have helped many people live better and happy lives. By not being in their life anymore, I assume. I think that's the only way a person could really have a happy life is one where you're not taking up space in it. This book takes into the account... Wow. Nice grammar, dumbass. The pure hatred that we the people... Shut the fuck up. You dealing with criticism and admonishment for being a cunt is not the same thing as other people being battered and killed. Shut up. Have to suffer via social media. Wow, social media. How dare people use it to call you a dick when you behave like an ass. Not in service, expose the day-to-day world of a particular conservative cult and their schemes. No, it's literally just you, bitching and moaning that someone doesn't agree with you, and throwing a fucking tantrum because someone dares to have the balls to not get kicked around and treated like shit by a fucking retard who would cry if someone did the same shit to him. Fuck you. Alright, let's read what the dumb fucking attempted at a cave person wrote for the description of this book. I'm not trying to do a whole lot of them, but I want to do at least enough of these so that people know what kind of fucking lunatic writes books like this. Anshine is a writer. No, you're a dipshit that calls himself a writer because you vomit through a pen. I hate to just use that all the time, but Professor Curious nailed it when he fucking said it. Educator. The only thing you've educated everyone on is why they avoid crazy people. Activist. You're not an activist. You're a dipshit that virtue signals on Twitter. You do the kind of shit that would make actual activists throw up in their mouths. And a supporter of the LGBT+ movement. It's not a movement. Because a movement implies that the person is trying to get rights they don't already have now. And take that pee bullshit and stuff it sideways in your ass. You're not a fucking activist. You're a dipshit, like I said, that wears the skin of an activist, hoping that you can ride the coattails of their success and their progress for your own ends. Bleed into a fucking gutter. She loved to travel the world, teaching the many life lessons of Hasenpa and the peaceful way of being. Here's the thing. Do you want to know how you maintain a peaceful way of being? You don't try to go around proselytizing your fake made-up religions to random people and trying to force them to convert, or do bullshit where you essentially say that anyone that doesn't agree with this is going to burn in some sort of eternal limbo forever, which is basically what you describe people going through if they commit suicide. You basically just described purgatory without actually saying purgatory in that book. You should have said ass. Also supports the great nation of Deconstructing. You mean the fake-ass nation that you can never point to on a fucking map. And the BLM movement. Now, BLM has some valid concerns when it comes down to police violence in the black community. But the problem is, you're not going to address that problem because you'd rather ride the coattails of what that movement means. Just like a lot of other assholes who essentially hijack the movement to loot and rob people, instead of the actual protesters who just genuinely wanted to have a conversation to improve the relations between police and the black community. But we're not ready for that conversation because you don't possess the nuance to understand that. The Harassment, the Holy Bible is... I love how Bible is in this one word because it must be so hard to use a fucking spacebar. The holy text of the Harassment religion. Well, thank you. It's almost like the word Bible implied that, dumbass. This book tells the truth about the environment around us while providing us with wisdom, love, and a better, excellent grammar, dumbass, a better understanding of our existence. You will truly be blessed by reading this book. No, do you know what you should truly be blessed by? Getting shot point blank in the head with a .50 caliber handgun. You're basically just trying to be a missionary for your own fake-ass religion. And remember, this totally isn't the mindset of a creepy cult leader, guys. When you basically write your own fake ass religion for your own fake ass country, when you posture as an activist, just so you can then milk it for your own financial ends. You're no better than a lot of those televangelist cocksuckers who run around trying to rob people and promise them bullshit in exchange for hundreds of their dollars a year in a collection plate. Fuck yourself with a knife. I'm sorry, but this is fucking antagonizing. I mean, really, it's just fucking asinine. The fact that you're trying to convince people they should give them money for this garbage, when you're basically just trying to rip people off and promise them a made up fucking religion that is not going to help anyone in the long run. Here's the synopsis of the 7-book series, which is actually like a 10-book series, but it took out 3. 1, because it was in a foreign language, and 2, because you removed them from circulation because I called you on a bunch of shit that you were openly admitting to. Non-service 7-book series by Shanae On, author. On Shanae, author. Shanae On, author. And one more. How is it that you have 4 different fucking usernames and seller's profile, all under different arrangements of the same fucking name? But remember, totally not a facetious lying bastard when you need to keep making dozens of accounts pretending to be different authors so that people won't be able to catch on to the fact that you're libeling them, okay? From book 1, this book is a tell-all is supposed to have a dash between it, book from the beginning of the Gage investigation to what we have to go through, not only as a human being, but my own personal drama as a trans woman. First off, shut the fuck up. It's not an investigation. You started a fight with people. People kicked your ass, and they started crying about it because you couldn't justify any of the shit you said to them afterwards. That's all that really was. It talks about the truth about life, and contradicts the lies of Gage and the DC2 cult. It's not a cult, and the GC2 is not even a real thing. It's literally a joke that was made as a middle finger towards you, that you then took seriously, because you're such a spastic, babbling fucking retard that you think anyone that looks at you and says you're an idiot for saying dumb shit is part of some sort of super shadow organization to eradicate you or blah blah blah. No. You're just a dipshit that makes a fool of himself, and then chooses not to think that making a fool of himself will result in fucking consequences down the road. It also discusses the life of Stetson Harwick. You said Stetson Harwick doesn't exist, so is this person real? Are they not real? Are they you with a different, before your name was changed? What is it? You can't have it both ways. In one of your own books, you claim Stetson Harwick was an AI that was programmed to involve itself with people who were, quote, fake news pushers. So make up your mind. Was this person a program designed to catch people who were not fact-checking things? Or was it simply you under a different name? Or was it someone else that you have close association with it? Which is it? A victim of GC2 called transgender male to female. It documents the ins and outs of her life. Yeah, because I know when I hear the name Stetson, I automatically assume that's a lady name. Her struggles, her victory, and their stories. It's not their stories, and it's not victory. Your idea of victory is you use broken guidelines to try to get someone removed, because it's the only way you can handle a rebuttal, is that you just keep trying to silence and suppress people until they either are removed or until they're completely taken out by someone else. You're the worst kind of person that there is, because you're basically hiding behind a label, and saying that you hiding behind the label means that no one can say shit to you. You're such a fucking asshole. Yeah, remember, this person totally is not Stetson Harwick, as they've claimed before. Meanwhile, here's an image of their TikTok account back when it was up, before they nuked it, to get away from people calling them for the shit they were pulling. I'd also like everyone to direct their attention to the series of images that are going to be displayed now. Yeah, remember, ladies and gentlemen at home, this is totally not the same fucking person in all of these images, despite the fact that the image in the lower right corner comes from the TikTok that was featured in the last photo, The other two images were either images from the back of the person's book cover before they altered it, and from the personal Facebook account this person used to operate back in 2019. But remember, these are all apparently not the same person, despite the fact they are all the same person. Here's some bullshit he pulled on Twitter. Update from Breaking Today. Breaking news. This is Gage Redacted attacking a transgender woman online. He sent her this message. The victim's name is being withheld to respect her privacy that Gage already violated. No, it sounds more like you're getting criticism. You're trying to pretend to be someone else. That way you can have other people fight your battles for you by pretending that you're not a fucking antagonistic, agitating little shitface who goes out of his way to be a provocateur, but then cries when he gets the rebuttal that he knows very well he's going to get, when he goes out of his way to libel and harass and do things to antagonize people. But remember, you totally don't remember shit you did a week ago. Here's an example of the little dipshit taking a picture from Kate's personal Facebook and then deciding to set it as a profile picture for his Twitter account. Keep in mind, this motherfucker will claim up and down he doesn't do shit, even in the face of evidence. But remember, totally doesn't do things like this, despite the fact that I have an image right here that confirms that at one point he has done this. And look what happened shortly after I found him and criticized him and pointed out that this was pretty fucked up that he did this. The very moment the little chode realized he was fucking caught, he immediately blocked me on the social, and more or less went out of his way to write a fucking crybaby song and dance victim narrative about how he's allowed to use other people's personal photos as account images, despite the fact that the people in question hate the fuck out of him and want nothing to do with him. But remember, this is totally the actions of someone who's not a provocateur little shit who wants to start fights all the time. Remember that. Here's another example of his little creepy faggy tran nibble sitting in the fucking profile picture. This happened a little bit before he used Kate as an image, mind you. He basically went to one of my younger sister's Facebook pages, one of my 4 sisters. He went to her page and copied and pasted a link to her account on social media. Remember, pretending to be this person, trying to thirst bait randos on Twitter to try to get some fucking attention. And remember, you totally don't know who the fuck this person was. Out of everyone on fucking Facebook, you miraculously found one of my younger siblings and just weirdly chose to make them the fixture of one of your fucking Twitter posts. Right. Because we all know that that's like throwing a dartboard from across the field at a football field and hitting a bullseye 10 times in a row while blindfolded and the end of the dart being cut off. That shit doesn't happen by happenstance. You would have had to have taken pretty extreme measures to find this person, let alone post their shit on social media. Keep in mind, after you did this little retarded shit, for 6 hours, my sister was being harassed by thirst weirdos and fucking creeps that were following you around. But remember, you totally don't know what you did, despite the fact that you went through all the fucking effort to do it. If this person is bothered because of something like this that you do again, I'm gonna break your fucking bones. I don't give a shit if you want to call me, No, what you did could have gotten my sister fucking hurt. What would have happened, asshole, if some psycho turned up at my mother's house and decided that he wanted to break in and no one else was home but her? Then what would have fucking happened? What would have happened? Huh? What would have fucking happened? You tell me why this shit is justified in any fucking way. I called him a faggot. Meanwhile, you're doing shit like this that can endanger my fucking relatives. And for some reason, you want to cry victim because I look at you and call you an ugly fish. Where? Fucking where? Grow the fuck up. You sad little fuck up. I don't care if this hurts your little fucking bitch ass feelings. You could have gotten a member of my fucking family hurt. This is the second time shit like this has been pulled by you. If you want to call me an asshole, call me an asshole. I don't fucking care. But don't be endangering people I care about because I hurt your bitch ass sensitive feelings. It's not my fault you're a fucking loser that no one fucking pays attention to. Here's an example of British Nonce 99 being in your fucking comment sections of one of your Instagram/Facebook posts. Because honestly, I don't remember which. Because you had like a dozen or so fucking accounts. Because, you know, you're totally not a facetious bastard. We need to make dozens of accounts. Little fuckhead openly posted my address in your comments, which you did not remove. And then later you do this shit where you call me a white nationalist and then repost the address he gave you and then are actively using it as a way to libel me as a white nationalist, which in turn could get my family fucking hurt or possibly get somebody fucking killed. Yeah, remember, I totally don't do things to endanger people's lives. Meanwhile, your greasy pedophile ass is doing shit like this. Yeah, what would happen if a bunch of assholes turned up at my actual home address and they assaulted my elderly granddad or they attacked my mentally unwell great aunt? Would you call that justified for calling you retarded on the internet? Seriously. This is the kind of shit you can get fucking sued for. Because you're doing things that could actually endanger someone's life. Let's be honest. Even if I had your address, I would never post it. Because I wouldn't feel it to be a necessary thing to do. Because if anything, that would only justify accusations of stalking. That would only justify accusations that what I did would put your life at risk. The shit you're doing here could put someone's fucking life at risk. And for some reason, it's completely fine when you're the one fucking doing it. Explain that shit to me. Why is it okay for you to do it in your little retarded ass on shithead show Facebook page, but if I so much as look in your direction and tell you that what you do is utterly fucked, you want to bitch and cry and do it twice? Why is it okay? Explain to me why the fuck it's justified to pull shit like this. Keep in mind, in this retarded-ass little screen cap right here, you say, children represents creation, the power to create, and not humanity, or the false conservative agenda and belief system called age. Excellent grammar, dumbass. Which never actually existed. No, let me show you an actual definition of children, as written by Webster's Dictionary, and not your retarded ass, shall we? Here's a screen cap of Merriam-Webster's Dictionary website. Child. Child. Plural noun is children. A young person, especially between infancy and puberty. An example, a play for both children and adults. B. A person not yet of the age majority, see majority since 2A, under the law, is still a child. You see how the dictionary that's been established for I don't know how long has a very different definition. It's because your idea of a child is a made-up definition that you've established for yourself to differ from the fact that someone does not have the mental cognitive reasoning skills to maintain a mature relationship or do mature things. And that is why you're fucking crazy. Because you're literally creating definitions for words that don't actually have that definition by using mental gymnastics to make it sound like what you're saying isn't utterly fucked up when you advocate that children get involved in sexual acts. This kind of shit makes me want someone to drag you out of wherever the fuck you're staying at and throw you into a psych ward. If you're not already living in one. Independent fact checker here. You're not a fact checker, you're just a fuckhead who pretends that he knows everything because it's the only way to convince yourself that you're right. It's just by bullshitting yourself that everyone else in the room is just a fucking unenlightened asshole. Let's keep reading this shit. There is nothing illogical about this photo. It's not a matter of it being illogical, you dumb fucking pedophile. It's about the fact that it's a small child holding a bear that is depicting a sexual fetish. That's the fucking problem. How are you this goddamn retarded? Just a photo of a person standing there with a bear with straps. It's not just any person. This is not an adult. This is a fucking small child who looks to be between the ages of like maybe 4 or 6. And you're trying to act like this small child holding this BDSM bear. It's completely natural and normal to be exposed to this weird sexual fetishism before they're even able to attend second grade. People like you are the reason kids get hypersexualized and exposed to creepy shit. Remind me why the fuck it is your ass isn't arrested. Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what is broken in your fucking brain that when you see a small child, a child, someone who is below the age of majority, below the legal age to make life-changing decisions, what I just cited a moment ago, why is it that you find it okay for a child to be exposed to sexual fetishism? Why? Does it have to do with your creepy fucking fetishes for watching the young boys twerk around and dance, as was seen in Cass's video where he screenshot your weird little creepy fucking playlist you had all those years ago? I hear that of everyone's relationship is that no one wants to be in a relationship with him because gay, is mentally unstable, has a really bad reputation, and has a long history of manipulation and violence against women. Yeah, there's only one question I have towards that.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop fucking lying.
Remember, this is another still image from the TikTok that he claims isn't his, but again, if you look at this face and the face depicted in the pictures right here that I'm going to put to the right, it's the same motherfucker. Question: why wouldn't you love me? Because you're an asshole that does genuinely awful shit to people for no real fucking reason, except for your feelings get hurt because you keep trying to force yourself into their life and their social circles. And when they tell you to leave them alone, even if they do it respectfully and keep a civil tongue, you decide that that's not sufficient enough reason to leave them alone, so you start needlessly harassing them because you're a total asshole. Yeah, guys, do you remember the time he tried to make people sign up for his fake nation? Because apparently that's how people immigrate to a country, they just sign up for it on the internet. Because, if a country doesn't have a landmass or a capital or anything that can actually identify as a nation, it's still somehow a country, even though it doesn't occupy anywhere in the world except for the mind of the crazy bastard that made it up. Right.
One eternity later.
I am disappointed that no one has made inquiries on being a citizen of Deconstructing. What are you waiting for? Well, it's probably the fact that no one wants to live in a country that doesn't actually exist, and nobody wants to sign up for what is essentially going to be a nothing burger that will contribute nothing to their life, and will most likely, in fact, only bring further stress to their life, because they're constantly going to have to contend with your retarded delusions of grandeur of being queen of the fucking universe. Keep in mind, when people look up your little fictional nation, this is all they see. Now, let me do a quick side-by-side with an actual nation that people can confirm exists. Let's use Japan for the sake of argument. You see, Japan is actually highlighted on a map there, actually has locations on Japan pinged and highlighted as tourist destinations, as well as a brief synopsis of the country's history and the country's governmental rule. As opposed to your country where it has literally none of these things, except for a made-up constitution that appears on a website made by people who claim to be academics, but there's no actual fact-checkers there, so that people can literally just publish whatever BS they want. Which results in your nation obviously looking fake. Yeah, here's another example of you trying to con people out of their money and basically lie to them about where the money's going. I'm raising money to help protect transgender people from gauge. Click to donate. What exactly would people giving you money really do to keep, quote, trans people safe from gauge? Seriously, what exactly would the money really go to? I guarantee it wouldn't actually go to things that are not happening. Because, let's be honest, you getting ridiculed for being a cunt is not the same thing as everyone else in the room assaulting trans people with baseball bats and hammers and stuff. People making offhand jokes or statements that they made because they're pissed at you is not the same thing as people showing a credible ability to go out and murder you, dipshit. Go around posting people's addresses and shit to try to get people fucking killed. But the fact is this. Giving you money wouldn't prevent people from getting hurt because realistically, I think you just use the money to find a way to hurt people. That's usually what assholes like you do whenever you find any ability at all to cry victim and demand money from people. It's always Always, 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 all fucking ways, an attempt for someone like you to filch gullible morons who think they're doing the right thing by just promising them that the money will be used for the justified cause. When the reality is, it's usually just so that chodes like you don't have to get jobs and work. And I'm not discounting people that work from home who are actually published authors that make some money with their work that's genuinely good and entertaining. I'm referring to people like you who want to be work shy layabouts and then choose to act like all their problems are the fault of the people mocking them, but not them for acting like a whiny fucking chode to everyone to constantly piss everyone off. At what point do you look at yourself in the mirror and just genuinely wonder if you might be the source of your fucking problems? I mean, keep in mind, you did this shit on Facebook too, where you went out of your way to do this dumb fucking BS, where you were trying to beg people for money with a fake ass attempt to get people to pay for things like education, travel, and even going so far as to do the same shit you're doing right now, where you demand money from people because you claim trans people are being victimized by me when the only person that's being, quote, victimized is you because you're a brain dead fucking chud who wants to start a fucking fight with everyone, but the moment they hit you back, you throw a fucking tantrum. For the people wondering why does it have a photograph of the moon and very hazy clouds in the corner of the picture, it's because for whatever reason, one of these people had a dick on a stick, so I decided to censor it so YouTube doesn't smash me across the face with a fucking hammer. Just so everyone knows, it's just mainly so I don't get in trouble. I'm trying to follow the rules as best I can. Stetson, I have to say, is a very interesting character from a psychological standpoint, if you want me to be honest. And it's not interesting because this person has really lived a life of experience or because it's genuinely fun or really all that intriguing. It's interesting from a medical standpoint where you genuinely wonder where a person develops these senses of entitlement. Because this person straight up admits in their Constitution of the Democratic Republic of Heminguk-Shania, where they claim their country is like an international cosmocracy, which means it possesses the authority to govern laws all over the planet simultaneously, like the UAC, or like the fucking Federation from Starship Troopers, where it can just govern every nation on the planet all the time, at every time, regardless of what law has been violated. Even going so far as to say that his nation has the authority to absolve people of crimes or charge people with crimes. And there's really no mention in his constitution whether or not evidence will be required to confirm guilt or innocence, which makes me believe that given the fact that he's willing to fly off the handle and believe accusations without evidence, it doesn't make me it doesn't sound too crazy that he would just straight up believe a lie about someone and try to charge them with a crime because he's openly done this kind of stuff before. See anything that he's ever said about the domestic violence accusations towards me. But the fact is, I think he would be the kind of person that if he had this authority for real, and it wasn't just inside of his delusional little skull, I think that he would actually try to get people incarcerated for doing fundamentally nothing wrong. Because he strikes me as the kind of motherfucker that just genuinely wants other people to be at his mercy. Because that's the only way he feels like he has an accomplishment. Like, he has this weird, I guess you could say, messiah complex about him where he wants to genuinely believe that everything he does is somehow him standing up for the rights of the innocent, him fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. Well, that's not true. Like, people that have seen how he behaves and have seen those debates, have seen those videos, know it's not true. Because the entire time anyone ever debates with him, his entire argument is always rely on semantics, rely on semantics, rely on semantics, run around in a circle and antagonize the person till they lose their temper and yell at him. Honestly, I wish I could have kept a cooler head during some of those because I would have just genuinely wanted to get to the corner. You just get to the core of that nasty, molded fucking onion that he calls his mind. Because I genuinely want to understand where this thought process comes from. I mean, people have seen this in his debate with Justin. when he starts talking about the universal truth, for example, the way the universe works, like, that's not how anything works, because trying to compare a planet that has life, that's established civilizations that have existed for millennia, is not the same thing as comparing a planet with no life on it and then trying to say that the comparisons should be considered valid, when the comparisons are basically like comparing a tennis ball to a fucking cannonball. There's like maybe two commonalities in the entirety of the comparison, and then everything else is basically a way that they are different. And for some weird fucking reason, he doesn't understand the difference, or just chooses not to acknowledge it, because he needs to pull this weird mental gymnastics stuff to kind of jump over things that would otherwise be an impediment to his argument. Like, I just don't understand the savior complex stuff, though. It's like, I am saving humanity. I am protecting humanity. Well, here's the thing. What exactly differentiates your idea of protecting humanity than other people's idea of protecting children from people that might sexually assault them? Like, how do you define one as different from the other, when only one of them you can actually definitively say might have a positive outcome, where the other one is basically just you whining and griping and throwing a fucking pants-shitting tantrum because people just look at you and say, I think your ideas are fucking dumb. I just don't know where this weird sense of morality that you have comes from. Because keep in mind, you'll constantly bang on and cry about people calling you names. But at the same time, like, when it came down to having that third debate with me the entire time, well, stop being retarded then. Stop being stupid then. Stop being a fool, get an education then. Yeah, like, what do you call that when you're just repeatedly insulting someone to their face? Like, you're doing the same thing that you get mad at me for doing to you, except it's justified because, for whatever reason, it hurts your feelings, therefore you have to do the same thing. I thought you subscribed to that whole ideology of, like, two wrongs don't make a right. But then you do the exact same thing that you claim you're vehemently against, which I don't fucking understand at all. I don't understand it. Like, I don't get how it is that time and time again you can double back on your own supposed system of beliefs, and then for some reason you don't realize the contradiction of trying to tell people that they should be nice and be accepting of everyone. But when someone disagrees with you, all bets are off, and then you try to take a fucking sledgehammer to their life to get some sort of limp dick retaliation for someone so much as looking at you and calling you a twat. I don't understand. I do not understand the mentality of someone that needs to constantly reassure themselves that they're the savior of the human race, when the reality is, if it came down to sacrificing like 100,000 people and you being met with your ideal world, you'd sacrifice those people without a second thought. And before you say, well, sacrificing 100,000 people, but in theory, I could save the rest of the world. Well, that's the same argument people have when they go to war to kill a terrorist who's developing chemical weapons, for example. But then you keep using that baby bitch bullshit argument of, well, killing one person is bad either way. Well, which is it? Would you rather kill one person to save many people, or would you kill many people to save yourself? I think you'd do the latter. I genuinely think that if you had the opportunity to get whatever you wanted, if it cost other people their lives, you'd do it without a second thought, because you'd feel it was owed to you. Because you're the kind of entitled little asshole, I think, looks at society and says, where's my piece of the pie? Instead of someone saying, I gotta go out and make a slice for myself if I want to go somewhere and do something. You constantly bitch about other people feeling entitled and that the world owes them something. You've said that about me directly in one of your shitty books. Meanwhile, I have a job. I've had one for many years now. In fact, I've had several jobs throughout the course of several years. I've been in one now for about 5 years that I'm just genuinely pleased with, that actually provides good benefits and good health care. Meanwhile, you're sitting on Amazon trying to sell people garbage, hoping that they'll buy it. While at the same time libeling and crying about me because for whatever reason, instead of just trying to live your own life, you instead want to sabotage mine. If you're angry and hurt by the shit I say about you, very well, just fucking say that instead of hiding behind fucking facetious language and very, very obvious attempts to dodge away from admitting it. Like, I'd rather just have you straight up admit that you don't like the things I say to you than running away from the fact that you should address that. I just don't understand. Let's talk about your little sense of entitlement, for example. Like, I don't know what it is, but, like, you've openly shown people on your Twitter as well. Like, you've shown people time and time again. You've openly said time and time again that a condition of being your friend is that someone has to be willing to have sex with you at any given time. Even if this person wants nothing to do with that. Like, it doesn't sound like you want a friendship. It just sounds like you want someone that will fuck you. You want a relationship, but you don't want a relationship, if that makes sense. Like, you basically want a relationship that's like no strings attached. But at the same time, instead of just being open with what you do and don't want, you try to dodge away from that. And instead of simply saying that you would look for a no strings attached relationship, you're trying to more or less dance around saying it and then trying to make it seem like you want a deeper connection with someone that's based upon respect and mutual care for each other. You don't. You genuinely don't. Now, let me just go into something that you said in book 1 and book 2. And the reason I want to use these as object lessons is because I want these things to more or less be able to be referenced at any given time. Whenever you describe another person that you take an interest in, you don't describe them as someone that you genuinely respect and admire. You describe them simply as a body that you either want their dick to be in you or you want your dick to go into them. Now, before you start crying, there's nothing wrong with finding another adult sexually attractive as an adult. The problem I have is the fact that when you talk about these people, you think about them only as objects that you can stick your dick in. You obsess with people completely randomly and then orbit around them until you find out they're not interested in you, or until they seemingly, have no interest in you anymore and basically just discard you like a bandage. And then you cry about being discarded, but then you market yourself as a whore. Like, you're the definition of a person that does not respect themselves, so you market yourself as an object because you know it's the only way to draw people in. And I hate to say that, because it sounds awfully shitty. But I'm not gonna bullshit you and tell you that the way you market yourself makes you seem relatable or interesting as a person that would make someone actually stick around for a long-term relationship. Because I'm sorry, you just don't. Hard do. Didn't know they'd make alcoholic Mountain Dew, but here they are. But never, like, you market yourself as someone that can be used as a disposable fleshlight, and then you want people to stay when you market yourself in such a way. Like, I don't know why it is you're not putting 2 and 2 together here when you realize that the way you market yourself is going to be very destructive to the way that people are going to fucking view you. Especially if you want to be viewed as this intellectual activist who's also a leader. But then at the same time, you market yourself like you're just another cheap e-thought on fucking OnlyFans. And this is not me shitting on people that do this for a living. This is me just questioning why it is you do this to yourself, but then at the same time you want to act like you're some sort of deep philosophical genius that's like working on a way to solve the world's problems, when you're not. Like, literally everything you do is for your own personal gain. And this would be fine in and of itself had it not been for the fact that you try to wear the skin of a bleeding heart who wants to go out and do right for the world. But the reality is everything you do just flies in the face of that, like 180% of the time. You strike me as the person that grew up entitled. You may have grown up in a lower income neighborhood. I will not fault you for the environment you grew up in, because I know more often than not it was not your fault. But at the same time, the reason you turned out this way is because it seems like your mother just coddled and swaddled you your entire life. And, like, no matter what you do, it seems like she would just constantly pat your ass and tell you that everything you did, regardless of how awful it is not your fault. Now, this wouldn't be a big ass deal if it wasn't for the fact that it kind of led up to you being what you are right now. Just a dick. I mean, I'm not gonna fucking dance around it. You're just a dick. You constantly bitch and cry about being a victim, but let's be honest, you're one of the biggest assholes in the room. Because you always need to be the center of attention. You always need to be the victim. You always need to be the person that's right. And then at the same time, whenever someone just disagrees with you and then finally just says, fuck you, I'm not going to waste my time with you because you're too stupid to argue with, you follow them around like an obsessed yandere trying to get their attention afterwards because, for whatever damn reason, it's like you just can't live in a world where someone refuses your advances. To the point where you seemingly get suicidal and depressed because people just don't want to waste their time having to deal with you forever. I mean, it's one thing if you just genuinely want people to care about you and respect you. It's another, however, when you keep trying to make other people's lives your problem. Put my USB in here. Just so that you can then complain about the problem you're trying to constantly provoke with people. I mean, you're allowed to disagree with me. You're allowed to disagree with whatever the fuck I say. Like, I'm never trying to say otherwise. Sorry, I'm all clicking. But the fact is that at the end of the day, you're responsible for your decisions. Like, you need to stop acting like you don't understand the fact that your decisions will have consequences for other people. And the fact that a lot of the times, a lot of the consequences for other people that are going to be met are going to be consequences that might affect their personal lives because you've decided that you wanted to make these people, myself being one of them, the object of your fixations. I will never contest your ability to state your opinion or disagree with mine. However, I will contest the right you attempt to reserve to harass my family, harass me, and constantly try to threaten me over shit that's not a big deal. And the reason I say it's not a big deal, it's not because I am not sticking to my guns, it's not because I don't have my opinion and will stand by it. It's the fact that you're just not worth the effort. You're not worth the energy. You're the kind of person that literally only judges their success by the amount of damage they do to others. And then you go out of your way to try to, more or less, capitalize on the parasitism that comes from being someone such as yourself, who only just exists to be a rabid SJW who would freak the fuck out if anyone so much as looked at him funny. But then at the same time, you constantly want to make other people seem like the reactionaries that are just always on the fucking edge of their rope or on a razor's edge between being completely calm and freaking the fuck out. But the reality is that's just not true. Because this whole thing is just an example of you losing your fucking shit at people for years, and then trying to antagonize, vilify, and harass people who would otherwise disagree with you. You strike me as the kind of person that only is focused on what you can get out of others instead of what you can contribute to others. Because you're the kind of person that literally just exists to be a non-contributor. You are. Anyone that's seen this Anyone that's ever seen your behavior for a prolonged period of time when it comes down to your exchanges with people could easily tell. Like, the reason you believe in socialism, for example, is because you genuinely want to believe in a world where people will just give you money just for existing because you're a lazy fuckaway who doesn't want to get a job. And no, being a writer that writes garbage that no one buys is not a fucking job. Last time I checked, Joe Hill and Stephen King actually were well accomplished and respected authors. Same thing with Bradbury, Orwell, and Crichton, and Lovecraft, and Poe, and Blackwood. These are all respected authors who wrote incredible things. Same thing with Conan Doyle and H.G. Wells. Same thing with Yatu Ayatsuji, who wrote the Another book series. You're not a talented or accredited author. You're just a parasite that latches onto the title of an author because you want to be able to utilize that to harass people. If you pretend to be this person that's trying to write a memoir, keep in mind your memoir basically just catalogs random day-to-day events that you've more or less thought were worthy of committing to memory, but really mean shit. There's no plot progression. There's no character development. Literally everything you do is a one-note character. And that's if the character even has so much as a single dimension. Because there's no proper description as to who these characters really are as people, because you don't care who they are as people. You can tell a lot about an author with how they write their characters, and since every character you wrote, with the exception of people who more or less served the roles of minor antagonists, didn't really have a purpose aside from being someone that you'd chase with a dick, then guess what? That tells people a lot more about how you perceive other people. You perceive them as sexual objects to be pursued and then thrown away when you get bored. And for some reason you're trying to act like this is a way that a human being behaves. Honestly, I think that you're the kind of person, like your Hasantha religion, for example. Your Hasantha religion and your fucking Democratic you're basically just describing a Jonestown. That's what it is. You're describing this idea of some sort of democratic cosmocracy, but is actually more like a socialistic Jonestown of a planet where no one pays taxes and everyone just gets free money to do whatever, and everyone gets paid the same, including the people that don't do any work compared to the people that bust their ass every day to get by. And for some reason you want to pretend this is like a completely functioning economic model that wouldn't totally just rape your country's finances into the ground. But the fact is this. You literally sound like a crazier version of Jim Jones when you start suggesting that your made-up religion is the answer to everyone's problems. Like, last time I checked, someone being depressed as hell because they come home to abusive parents who verbally and physically assault them every day is not the same thing as actually having a solution. Maybe if I pray enough, Mom and Dad will stop beating me and yelling at me. No, if anything, that's just going to confuse them and possibly anger them to do it further, if not to a greater level of extremity. Like, the fact is this. You literally believe in like a Jonestownian idea that no one will ever make work. I mean, look what happened to Jonestown itself. They literally had to poison themselves and shoot themselves, or shoot the people that wouldn't drink the poison. Like, this is basically the shit you're trying to do here. You're trying to convince people they need to join your fictional nation so that you can establish what is essentially a quasi Jonestown. And you're trying to make it seem like this is a reasonable and understandable way to make a functioning government or planet. It just isn't. We'll take a quick break, be right back. I mean, here are a few questions I'd like to really ask about the Democratic Republic of Demingok. You claim it's a democratic cosmocracy that has a socialistic market. Well, my question is this, like, how are you going to make other countries join your conglomerate, or join your little federation, I guess you can call it? Are you going to try to use political means? Are you going to try to use religious means? Or are you going to try to use militaristic means? There are three ways that people try to assimilate another country. Or in this case, you're trying to assimilate the entire world. And don't say, we already did. Because if you already did, then your flags must be very hard to see, because I'm still seeing the United States flags everywhere I go in my country. Then I also see pride flags and other flags, but that's neither here nor there. The fact is, I'm not seeing your made up country's flag flying anywhere. Probably because it's not real, but I digress. Like, let me just explain something. If you were to try to use religious means to take over the United States, for example, everyone that practices any different religion would say that you're allowed to practice your religion, but would also tell you to shut the fuck up and say that they're going to practice theirs and that they're not going to have to listen to yours. That's what's going to happen if you try to use religious means to take over the United States. They're going to look at you, well, I should say we, because I'm a citizen as well. My country would look at you and say, you have the right to practice what you wish, but we are going to stand firm in our beliefs that we do not have to practice whatever religion you say we should. And then, if you tried to do it through political means, if for whatever reason you walked up to Congress and you walked up to the current president, whoever they might be, let's just say President like Malcolm or some bullshit for the sake of just for the sake of a president, it wouldn't matter whether the president is Democratic or Republican. The fact is, when you go up to a president and start saying that you intend to remove civil rights for a certain religious group just because of things that an asshole like Shirley Phelps says, because you're so incredibly in love with the idea of one religion always being the villain instead of just having assholes in its sect that a lot of people don't like that are also the same religion. Like the government and anyone that respects the rights of its people, any president worth their salt would look at you and say, no, we're not going to do that. You're not going to absorb my country and seize control of it from me and from my cabinet and from my representatives and from the Senate, just so you can control what people can and can't say or believe. If you tried to do the whole, well, I want all the guns confiscated, all the people in the right wing, or even people that are not right wing but believe in gun rights, are also going to tell you to go away. It's one thing if you simply want better regulations so that crazy people can't get guns, fair enough. But the problem is, you're not trying to make it so that guns are harder to get your hands on for dangerous people. You're making it so that law-abiding citizens are defenseless from a tyrannical government or from a crazy person that just happens to come to their job with a loaded gun to settle a score with a coworker. Or even just a crazy fucking kid in high school that decides he wants to pay back his bullies with a lead sandwich. The fact is, you can't use... You won't be able to use political or religious means to absorb the United States, for example. And you most certainly are not going to be able to use militaristic means because you don't believe in violence. And if you don't believe in militaristic means, and if you know that political and religious means are not going to accomplish anything, you're essentially left with nothing. At that point, you have no method to try to, quote, seize control of the United States. Now, that's just the United States. Now, imagine you're dealing with a country like China, who has an incredibly high population density, who is incredibly homophobic towards gay people, who's incredibly Islamophobic, and the government is very, 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 very tight-lipped on speech laws. Now, they don't have hate speech laws, but they will openly have people arrested and incarcerated for speaking out against the government's treatment of gay people or Muslims in China. What are you going to do then? Are you going to go up to China and look at I'm trying to remember, who is the current chairman, or I'm not sure if they refer to the president or the chairman, whoever runs China. Are you going to go up to that chairman of China, for example, and say, I personally think your laws are unfair? You're going to be arrested and placed in a prison by the time that sentence is uttered. Regardless of whether or not you agree with what I've said, it's fucking accurate. I mean, here's the thing. China may be very industrious, they may be highly efficient when it comes down to building stuff, but the problem is when it comes down to the free rights and citizens' rights and the overall civil liberties they essentially have fucking none. Same thing if you were trying to go to North Korea and you were to try to challenge Kim Jong Un's pre-approach to having 5 predetermined haircuts that any citizen may have. Like the moment you were trying to threaten that, he would literally have you shot in the knees and then shot in the arms and then dumped in a ravine somewhere. And he would just let you die, knowing that you cannot crawl or climb your way out of that trench they've left you in, while you slowly die of malnutrition or from injuries. Say what you want, but that is how it would go if you were to try to go to countries and then demand control of them from the people that run them. A government is not going to hand over control of its land and its people and its resources to a complete rando who walks up and says, I have all the answers, because you don't have any of the answers. Your whole idea of an answer is literally just to create another problem that someone else would then be tasked with finding the solution for. Yeah, but the fact is this, though. Like, you're not going to seize control of other people's countries, and they're not going to let you. And it's most certainly not going to become a thing in the United States when people realize they're going to start cracking down on people's speech because it offends you. And people are most certainly not going to want someone in charge of their country in one way or another who's going to marginalize and harass a religious group because of the words, and only the words, of a bunch of loudmouth assholes that practically nobody likes. It's just not gonna happen. And same thing with your personal, like the promise to like personal and economic growth, whatever the hell you want to call it, like what is essentially a pay stipend. You know, like the shit they did in Germany when Mustache Man was around, when his Gestapo were rounding up Jews and throwing them in trains. Because we all know that the pay stipend shit worked out when it basically helped bottom out Germany's economy during World War II, which is essentially basically what you'd be offering your own citizens. Not to mention the fact that you're literally paying them money for dead people in their family. Which means by the time a family has lost close to like 35 members of their family, you got like maybe 4 or 5 people left after like 2 centuries. You're paying what is essentially like how many fucking UNAs for this family members who have all been dead for the better part of a century now. It's like, yeah, I'm totally not destroying my fucking economy by paying for the lifespan of dead people. I mean, here's the thing: a communist village might work if everyone's on the same plane, as long as the village is small enough so there's no ability to create a discrepancy between who gets what. But when you claim that your made-up nation has a population of 10 billion people, and you start saying that your nation is somehow functioning fine, despite the fact that so many people sharing so little income and sharing so much land, would most likely result in a lot of conflict and tensions and difficulties maintaining resources. But remember, what do those pesky logistics have to do with imagination land? But yeah, like the way you're describing it is that you're describing a country that is like destined to fail. I mean, you're basically just describing a roided up Jonestown that's run by a rabid SJW who wants to more or less assimilate all the countries on the planet into their collective. But every country that you would ever try to approach with this idea would tell you to go fuck yourself and get lost. Like, I know it's not real, but if we were to apply real standards to this, it would end fucking horribly. It would basically end like the end of World War II, where eventually the Allies would have to come and liberate the citizens of this made-up country from their dictator. Because I imagine that once the people of the country realize that the dictator is a crazy fucking nutjob, excuse me, when this is just a crazed fucking nutjob that condones pedophilia and shit, what's gonna happen is people are just gonna want this asshole dead. And if not wanting him dead, they're gonna want to fucking leave. And he's probably gonna fucking refuse to allow them to leave. He probably will not allow them to want to flee the country to return to the United States because they realize the country they moved to was a complete shithole. where rapists and drug addicts and pedophiles and murderous gangbangers are just allowed to run free. And because the country has open borders, they have drug dealers and terrorists and shit running around mixed in with the regular people who are just trying to find a place to live. But remember, totally not a system that would be destined to break down and fail. I mean, like, this country would be like the perfect example of chaos theory. Because it would be like a great way to show how the underlying instabilities of a system eventually cause it to fucking break down beyond control. Except in this case, the instabilities are not underlying. The instabilities are like all surface level. And then there are other instabilities that are underlying, which all eventually cause some giant fucking crescendo of mayhem, destruction, and violence. As is with most places that are run by crazy people that don't know what the fuck they're doing. See, anytime Saddam Hussein was in charge. But the fact is, yeah, your made-up country is not going to have the power to usurp control of another country, let alone the United States, where almost everyone has a gun and is more than willing to speak out about people trying to abuse their power to take over other people's lives. That's just a fact that your made-up country would not be able to successfully usurp the US, regardless of how desperate you are for a one-up. Alright, good. Let's get to the last leg of this little piece of shit before we're finally ready just to call it. Please stop reporting things. This is not necessary, and it is causing us great distress. Oh, okay, motherfucker. Let me ask you a couple questions. Tell me something. Does your definition of great distress also include instances of people throwing mistakes that you made in your fucking face that are not their business? Does it involve accusing people of horrendous shit all the fucking time, quite frequently, to the point to where every time any bit of your name is brought up, this asshole in question needs to continuously throw an accusation at you every time they so much as hear your name because they're a dipshit that needs to win an argument that no one else cared to win? Would you classify leaking someone's address and possibly compromising the safety of their relatives or people they care about? Would you consider that something that might cause distress in some way? Because let me ask you a question. Why should anyone give a fuck about causing you distress? When literally all you do, since everyone's been aware of your fucking existence, is just try to be a malicious, vindictive, fucked up parasite who tries to cause other people anguish both online and offline by trying to involve people in the bullshit conflict that might hurt people they know as a result of the hurtness of your ass. Why is it that anyone should be made to listen to a word you fucking say and take your sorry bitch ass petty fucking fifis into consideration when literally everything you've ever tried to do since day one has been trying to take a fucking saw out of people's personal lives because you decided to die on the hill of defending one of the most fucked up, horrific things a person can ever do to another human being, and then tell anyone that disagreed with it they were just a bunch of stupid, ignorant assholes that didn't get it. Seriously. Why should anyone give a fuck about your feelings, or how you feel about anything that they say about you, when you do all the shit that you did in all the screenshots that just popped up? Again, if you have a question about something, ask me. No one gives a fuck about your sorry little fucking bitch-ass excuses that you're gonna give people for being a crazy stalking cunt to everyone. If anyone asks you a question as to why the fuck you are doing this, you're just gonna make some lame-ass excuse about it needing to be the fucking public's business that someone calls you an asshole on the internet. That's all it's gonna be. It's gonna turn into a whiny, bitchy bunch of fucking excuses where you piss, bitch, and moan and try to act like anyone that was criticizing your behavior deserves to have their life thrown under the fucking bus because you've decided that your personal feelings on the matter are more relevant and more deserving of acknowledgement than the livelihood and safety of those who you constantly try to fucking prey on, you goddamn parasite. Communication is a very important tool for this very reason. Talk to me and let's work this out, but don't try to destroy the reputation of myself or the company We deserve better. Hashtag show me respect. Hashtag there's a better way. Hashtag Penavega Universal Media. Keep in mind, this post was done in response to myself, Professor Curious, and Stu Dog reporting the ever-loving fuck out of his Twitter account because he ended up posting a link to my sister's Facebook account, which included her legal name and other information that could be used to identify, harass, stalk, and possibly hurt my sister. But remember, there's a better way. There's a better way. Stop reporting things that endanger people's relatives. Stop telling me I can't do things that might get someone killed. Stop it, or I'm gonna cry. Fucking kill yourself. Seriously, you're a piece of shit. You know why what you do is fucked up, and you do it anyway, and you wonder why people call you a fucking asshole. You wonder why people have no sympathy for someone like you. Because you don't deserve sympathy. You're the person that literally exists to prey on and try to destroy other people's livelihoods and their fucking lives. And then at the same time, you want to be the person that's the first one to scream in people's fucking faces whenever they justifiably call you for doing something shitty. And keep in mind, the only reason you do these shitty things is because people look at your ideas and say, your ideas are a load of horse shit that don't work in a living world that makes sense. And because you hear any sort of pushback from people, you throw a tantrum. You're literally the definition of everything that could be wrong with a human being. Because you live to be a victim, you live to be an antagonist, and then you keep trying to pretend that you're the victim when you're the first one that literally stands at the end of a fucking rope and then hits someone with a fucking stick so they respond to the shit, just so you can walk just outside of their striking distance and talk more shit and throw rocks at them afterwards. But the moment they pick up stones and start pelting you back and they can actually hit you, you throw yourself on the ground and cry like you were just doing nothing wrong to anyone before they just came out of the sky like a great dragon, and they came to destroy me. No, you're an asshole. You do awful things to try to get people's attention in a very negative light. And when so much as one fucking person looks at you and says, go the fuck away, you're an awful person because you do shit that might hurt somebody or get someone hurt, you throw these little sook-la-la tantrums on your social media where you cry about people reporting shit that may endanger someone else. Why is it that I'm not allowed to call you a retard, but you're allowed to post my address? Why is it that if I call you a sick little freak for going out of your way to sexually fetishize children, you immediately say that, well, that's not true, that's not nice, but then at the same time you go around posting links and stuff that may lead to the social media of people in my personal life, some of whom have children either in our immediate family or children that are frequently around them because they are stepchildren or children of that person. And then for some reason you want to constantly cry and bitch about endangering yourself. Let's be honest, you don't give a fuck about whether or not someone else might be endangered because of the shit you say. You're more concerned with covering your own ass. Like, how is it you can claim to be that I'm this empathetic, caring person, and I protect humanity from bullies like Gage? Meanwhile, you're doing things that could be considered bullying and harassment because you're doing shit that might endanger someone for real. Instead of just, well, you hurt my fucking feelings, and I'm gonna cry about it. I mean, here's the thing. Why are you allowed to bring up details from my personal life and try to slap me over the fucking head with them? But when I personally criticize or speculate about shit that you more or less admit to, and I point out the fact that you're very inconsistent with how you try to detail a lot of the things that happen in your life, you somehow act like it's completely unreasonable for me to criticize your inability to tell a clear story. But then you want to openly take things that happened in my life out of context and then try to portray it as the worst possible outcome of every one of those events, just so you can make me look like a piece of shit or an asshole. Like, where must the line of separation be drawn before you realize that all you're doing is just making yourself look like a massive douche, and then you're trying to say other people should feel like shit because you're an asshole, because you do stupid shit to fuck your own life up? But let's get down to the last segment, shall we? Here's one last little thing before I basically cap the fish saga off once and for all. And no, this isn't like other times where it's like I'll say I'm done, but then I'll be back like a month. Like no, I'm done. Like I'm all tapped out on it because realistically, there's no point. It's so fucking stupid and brain rot inducing that it's fun to laugh at his insanity, but it's also just a drain on my fucking psyche to even acknowledge that he fucking exists at all. Stetson, if you ever watch this, I forgive you. And I'm not forgiving you so that you can feel absolved of your shitty actions. Or so that you can sit there and say, I won, they just left me alone. I forgive you because I get my revenge every day just by knowing that you live this sad, pathetic existence that could only get worse and could never get better. I don't need to do anything to fucking hurt you because you hurt yourself more than I could ever dream of being able to. You live a life that is literally nothing but anger, misery, and self-loathing. And there is nothing at all I could ever do to you that would ever be worse than that. Because you've essentially decided to dedicate your life into being a fake activist for real problems. But it's problems that you yourself don't actually care to really be an activist of in the real world. Because you'd rather virtue signal on Twitter and keep tweeting about how much you want to be forcibly feminized and sold into sex work as some sort of creepy gender bend fetish. And if you're into that and it's adult, don't give a fuck, but the fact is it's still fucking creepy, dude. But nevertheless, like, I don't need to worry about trying to hurt your life because the only person that's really capable of hurting your life is you. And you've been doing a pretty bang-up job of it without any help from me or anyone else in the room, mind you. Because let's be honest, from what you've said in Casa de Zuma and stuff that Professor Curious has read, is that you're literally surrounded by people that fucking hate you, that can't stand you because they realize that you're also a cunt. They ignore you and choose not to be involved with anything that you do because they realize you're just a parasite that wants to attach yourself to another person to give your life meaning. Instead of trying to find meaning in doing the same things instead of doing what I do, or anyone does, where they find joy and meaning in spending time with the people around them and having a job that gives them a sense of purpose, you instead decided to try to become a fake activist. And then you basically made your life all about pursuing this fucking coattail riding, clout chasing political war game with people that really don't give a damn. I don't need to do anything to hurt your life because you are the biggest detriment to your own life and you're too stupid to even see it. I forgive you not because I think what you do is okay, not because I'm over what you did, but just because I realize that holding on to it and wasting my time wishing bad things to happen to you is meaningless because those bad things will happen completely on their own because you're the kind of person that cannot stop running his fucking mouth to people. Like, I relish the fact that one day it's inevitable that you're going to run your mouth to the wrong motherfucker and it's going to either spell a trip to the hospital or a trip to the dentist or might even spell a violent end for you. And this is not me threatening you or trying to imply a threat. This is me saying that given the kind of person you are, you're eventually going to mouth off to a total stranger who does have the capacity to strike you because they're physically close to you in the real world. And it's going to be entirely your fault because you're the kind of person that always needs to be right, even if you're actually not. Like, honestly, you're gonna have a shitty life. You've basically placed yourself into the situation where you're in a constant, perpetual cycle of self-loathing and self-victimization. I mean, hell, even images like this, where you constantly tweet about how much you hate your life and how much you want to be dead, but yet you don't have the balls to actually carry it out. Because I think you love yourself too much to kill yourself, so you're not gonna do it. You just try to scare people into being your friend by threatening to suicide bait them because you're a sad little fuck-up who does not like the fact that people are going to just not want you in their lives when they realize you're just a drain on their psyche and their free time. Like, all I'm gonna say is, dude, have fun making your own life miserable. I'm gonna live my life, not in spite of you, but just because of the fact that I can live it in spite of you, instead of just to spite you. And with that, I hope to end this on a cathartic note. Thank everyone for the support over the years. Have a good one.